Happy Wednesday, everybody. It is Preview Wednesday per usual over here on Roll Pod. It is Georgia week. SEC play getting started. For some people say this is the start of the season, but obviously Alabama got off to a rough start against Florida State. But like I said, it is time to preview Alabama versus Georgia. A lot of talk. It'll be under the lights in Sanford Stadium. First time in a pretty long time Alabama is playing there. Be some weather talk we get into. Mike, Alex, how are we doing this morning?
Good. I still wish somebody would just kill it's going to be a blackout storyline, because it persists despite no announcement that there's going to be a blackout.
I went straight to our source on this one, Jordan Hill from Bama247. And he said, I'm sure there will be some fans wearing black, but the majority will stay away from it, given what happened in 2008. I can guarantee you that the Bulldogs on the field will not be wearing black.
Yeah.
So there's your.
I think it's one of those things where it's some of the newer fans that Georgia's kind of gathered over the last couple of years may not know the history of the blackout. So, yeah, there might be some.
It's like all of 17 years ago. It's
not other fans.
I'm saying the fans since they've won a couple championships.
Yeah.
The students at UGA have no memory of that 2008.
Right. That game was incredible, though. Like the first 5 minutes, it was like a first-round knockout. Mike Tyson, whatever year it would have been, he would have been the baddest man on earth. Started with a fight on the field, which I very vividly remember, and ended with me writing that Mark Richt needs to be fired as head coach at Georgia. I didn't really want to write it, but it was very clear in that moment that Georgia was cooked as long as Nick Saban was around. And lo and behold, it did go that way.
That seemed to be pretty correct. We will dive into that matchup fully in a couple minutes. But first, we want to start with kind of, I guess, big news, schedule talk. I know it's been on a lot of people's minds. Alabama or SEC adopting the 9-game SEC schedule going forward. Schedules being revealed last night for 2026, 2027, 28, 29. Alabama obviously having their 3 set opponents of Mississippi State, Tennessee, and Auburn. We'll start there. I don't know if we've talked about that, but I think Alabama fans should be happy with that.
Oh yeah, I think Greg Byrne is jumping for joy. I think they were scared that they were going to get LSU. Scared might be a word that they would argue with, but it's obviously a much more difficult matchup than Mississippi State is annually. There are years where Mississippi State bubbles up. They did under Dan Mullen a few times, but there needs to be some balance. I said all along that it didn't really matter to me, that ultimately the goal was getting to 9 games. And if you have to break a few eggs to make an omelet, so be it. It just happened that those eggs got broken over the head of a Missouri or a team like that. But Alabama sort of dodged the bullet. And it's good. Look, and at the end of the day, too, it makes sense. Like Mississippi State's the closest team. And as fun as this LSU rivalry is, it isn't really a rivalry without Nick Saban as much, and the rivalry is maybe 18 years old, so the rivalry could just vote this year. It's not old enough to be a rivalry. Mississippi State, they've been playing a lot longer. It's fine, and we'll still get the LSU game. That's the great thing about it. It's not like it's just going away.
Right. I mean, they're playing them every 2 years. Like it's not like the old SEC East where you played a team once every X number of years. Like look, I think people forget the LSU thing. Alabama first played LSU in 1895. They've played 89 times. This will be the 90th time this year. They've played every single year since 1964. So I think the intensity of the rivalry is fairly new because of Saban on both sides of it. But it's been around. Like I think it's a little bit of a misperception that Mississippi State's like a much longer history. I mean,
no, it's not a rivalry. Mississippi State's not a rivalry. It's a geographic it just makes sense. It'd be like
Right.
Vanderbilt not playing Tennessee. Like,
I mean, Alabama's
not playing Kentucky.
Right. Alabama's played Mississippi State 108 times. So they played them about 20 times more. But the first game between the two schools was actually 1896. It was a year after Alabama and LSU's first game. So
not a night game then.
I don't know if there's a big difference. I think the geographic part of it, not a night game. It was 20-0 Alabama over Mississippi.
I'm just gonna play the geographic part of it. Is it that big of a difference?
No, it's not. I think it's just a way of explaining it.
Yes.
Right.
If you're the SEC. And look, if you watch that,
it's competitive balance too. And it needs to be said over and over and over again. They're going to look at it every 4 years.
Right. Now, this one is competitive balance. I think perfect example of it, because the other thing you have to factor in is like TV deals and rights. And you'd rather have, obviously you'd rather have Alabama, LSU with everything that you've said, but you'd rather have Alabama, LSU every year than
And I think from the reaction I've seen from fans, a lot of fans actually want that game every year. They like watching that game. They like going to that game. There's fans mad that LSU is not on the schedule every year.
Right.
Look at our Facebook comments. I've done that too much since last night. But yes, they were shoving that down our throats. If you watched that ridiculous TV show last night, that they were telling people to scan a QR code to look at your schedule, and then it gave you an error message. And even when the page was working, it did not have the schedules on it. It only had them as they released them on TV. Mm-hmm. So it's like, hey, fans, look at your schedule. And then you go to the website and there's only Georgia, because all they talked about so far in the TV show is Georgia. It was ridiculous. The whole thing was just kind of ridiculous.
They didn't have weeks to get ready for it and let themselves get scooped.
It could have been an email. It could have been a social media graphic, but they had to draw it out into an hour-long TV show. But that's just me complaining that I had to watch it last night.
Yeah.
But look, they did. Man, I'm just trying to recover from watching it last night. They did hammer home the point last night that it's going to be reevaluated every 4 years, the permanent opponents. And they said, I think they could even use metrics that don't exist yet. I think was like the wording, that they could make up a new metric in 4 years to determine permanent opponents. So it could change. And look, I think the other side of this is what's good for Alabama in not playing LSU every year is also good for LSU in not playing Alabama every year.
Yeah.
Because if LSU avoids Alabama and that saves them a loss, then they could be there right at the top of the standings with you at the end of the year. So it kind of goes both ways. I don't want to say it cancels each other out, but it kind of does. So I don't know. Like, to me, I don't love making the drive to Baton Rouge. It's kind of a long one, so I'm happy about that. But
like Baton Rouge, don't like the drive.
Yeah, I like the food in Baton Rouge more than I like going to Starkville, if I'm being honest. But
the Starkville slander at some point has to end. Like, it has restaurants that are really good. There's a Starbucks now. Like, there are things there. They're cows, but there's still things in Starkville.
I've waited in the Starbucks in Columbus, Mississippi for far too long. Like, it's just a coffee. Like, how long does it take to make one? I don't know. A long time, I guess. But look, the schedule, even the years you don't have LSU, which I think is 27 and 29, you have Texas. So it's like,
that's not, it's nowhere to hide. Yeah, it's great. At the end of it, this is great. Like, this is going to be, you're going to see new teams all the time. It's not going to be this thing where Georgia has to wait 10 years to play Alabama in Athens. You're going to see Florida now, not once every 8 years, whatever the hell it has been. Like, this has been a long time coming. So, is it perfect for TV every single year? No, but you're going to get it every other year. And in some ways that can build up the matchup too. So look, we can talk about the things that are wrong with it, but I think there's a lot more that's right with it than anything else.
And I think it could, with the way they did the home and home spanning over home and aways over 4 years. I don't think they could have done it any better. I mean, you could sit there and dive into the graphics in every matchup and, pit pot, but I think they did a great job.
The numbers work out. I mean, this was the model that made sense, 6+3 with 9 games. Now, if you go and add North Carolina and Virginia at some point, you're going to have to make a new scheduling model. And actually, that might be a good thing, because the way North Carolina is playing, some teams might want to have North Carolina on their football schedule, or Virginia for that matter. So maybe that gives you some places to hide. But I think every SEC fan this morning is like, man, this is tough, because they've seen Vanderbilt lately. And then everybody has Vandy on their schedule. And it's like, well, they're That's not as easy as a game it used to be. So there's nowhere to hide in the conference in general. And at Alabama, on top of that, like I said, the years you don't play LSU, 27 and 29, well, guess what? You're going on the road to Ohio State in 27, and then you're going on the road to Notre Dame in 29. So there's other things on the schedule that certainly make up for it. I would imagine both of those series stay. I think the one that seems very likely to go right now is the Oklahoma State one, which would be on the road in 28 and at home in 29. And as we've seen, Oklahoma State's having some issues lately. That might be, I don't know, maybe it's a good thing. Maybe if they keep struggling, you want to go play Oklahoma State.
Rodak has gotten Gundy fired. His next target is Stoops at Kentucky, and he'll.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, we won't talk about Dabo though. We won't.
I think Florida fans might want to hire you, Rodak.
I don't know. I mean, why is nobody talking about Mark Stoops? That's a good point. We should start talking about Mark Stoops.
God, I was kidding. Like
we can get into Mark Stoops in another podcast, but. Real quick, just to wrap up
when there are 15 coaches fired in the middle of November.
Just to kind of put a final bow on the schedule.
28 and 63 in his career in the SEC. I can't go on without saying.
Can't let it go. He can't let it
28 and 63.
Yeah. Look at the four guys before him. Go ahead.
I was just kind of looking at 26. I know we can go on and on about beyond, but 26 is next year. I think it's interesting getting, it's a favorable draw, I think, home and away, getting Georgia, South Carolina, Texas A&M at home, Auburn at home. Now you got to go play at Vandy. But yeah, it's interesting getting Georgia, South Carolina, Vanderbilt for a third year in a row.
And no Ole Miss or Arkansas for a third year in a row. I think we assumed maybe the teams that you haven't played these past 2 years you'd get next year, but I don't think it's that easy. I don't think the math would work with all the new permanent opponents to just flip everybody's schedule like that. So that's probably why that didn't happen. But you do get A&M.
About Ole Miss. I didn't even realize that. Yeah.
Right. You do get A&M, Kentucky, I guess Mississippi State that you haven't played, these last 2 years. So, I mean, I'm surprised they put Georgia back on the schedule. I would have thought it would be Texas. But again, it's just you're trying to make everything work, and it's like a Rubik's Cube. It's not easy to make it.
And I know why they put Georgia on the schedule, because you're going to see the ratings coming out of Saturday, and they're going to say, "Give me more of that, please."
Yeah, Kirby, he'll be ready to go, and he'll give you the coach speak. But I can't imagine. I don't even know if he's seen the schedule yet. But he can't be too thrilled. He's going right back to Tuscaloosa next fall. But
maybe that's why they did it too, because I think in some ways them giving Alabama, Georgia back-to-back years was a not so subtle message to Nick Saban too when he complained about certain aspects of the schedule.
Interesting. Moving along here, getting into kind of back into current times. Again, Alabama, Georgia week. We've been following along some key injuries to Tim Keenan and Jam Miller all year. Have both yet to play, but if you've been following our roll pod and pretty much anywhere else on Bama247, the boards, Mike's thoughts, Alex thoughts, Georgia felt like it was going to be the return dates for both. Kalen Deboer has all but confirmed that earlier this week. We'll start with those two. I know we've talked about them a bunch, but I lay it up. How crucial is it getting these guys back? And Alex?
Go ahead.
I'll say it's crucial, especially on the road. It's not just that it's Georgia and it's a big game, but like when I think about Jam Miller and the consistency, the dependability he brings to that offense, it's everything but carrying the football. It's the confidence he gives Ty Simpson in pass protection and in the passing game as well. So it's really big. And obviously Tim Keenan's big. I mean, you need that big body in the middle of your defensive line. We've seen the deficiencies the first 3 games without him. And now they're playing a team that actually can expose you in terms of running the football right up the gut. So you need him. Now, the question for me all along has been, they're going to play, but how much? And I think 20 is the magic number for snaps for both of those guys. I think Keenan, you might see him get a little bit more than that, but the question for me is how that, not what the ankle looks like the first quarter, it's what it looks like coming out of halftime, how that holds up, how he tolerates the pain, and then how much is Jam Miller actually running the football, A, because of the game plan and what they might have to do, but B, like, how much do you really want to expose that collarbone given the way he runs? So it's a big deal, but it's not like you're flipping a switch and suddenly those guys are playing like they would last season. It's not going to work like that coming back from an injury. You're just glad you have them at your disposal at this point, especially on that defensive side of the ball where you don't have another big body to lean on. Like you were trying, Jeremiah Beeman was your only like 320 plus guy, and he's out. So it's good, but it's not the end all be all unless they, just grit it out and play like they would otherwise. But I don't expect that. I think they're going to try to limit exposure on both of those guys.
Right. I think expecting 0 to 60 is expecting too much.
And it's inviting trouble too.
Right. So, I mean, is it big that they are back and you don't have them not playing anymore? Yes. But I don't know if it's necessarily back. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I think so. I guess that kind of brings like you still have those. I guess we'll start with Jam. How is that rotation going to look? Is it still just wait and see? I mean, it all depends on how much Jam does play. Is it going to be Kevin Riley? What's it look like? And
I said it before the injury. It's not like Jam was setting the world on fire as a running back. Very dependable. Could pick you up positive yards, but not a home run hitter. Kevin Riley has shown a little bit of that. So I think they'll continue to work him in because Kalen has said it on the record again and again and again and again. They need more explosive plays from running backs. They've got two against not great competition all the first 3 games. You need better than that. And one of those is from AK Deer in washout time. So I think you will see Kevin, and I think you might see Daniel Hill too, because the body, I think he's shown them something in terms of pass protection these last few games. So it wouldn't surprise me if you see him as well. I'm a little bit down on Richard Young at this point just because he's not really giving you a lot of juice, and he's not really a guy who runs between the tackles really hard and breaks tackles like you'd expect for somebody his size. So really those are the 3 guys I've got circled in the backfield, and I think it would be Jam will probably have the most carries, but I don't think it's a 15-20 carry game for him. Right. Unless Alabama just dominates, and even then they might just give the other guys the ball.
Right. I mean, game script, if you want to call it that, is kind of the determining factor there. And there's been games where even Florida State, it's like, all right, we get behind, we're going to go away from the run. That tends to be what they do. And with Jam's injury too, like it could be a case of you get a little bit from him, you get a little bit from Kevin Riley, you get a little bit from Hill.
You get a little bit from Ty Simpson too.
You get a little bit from Ty. You might get a little bit from Richard Young. I don't know if you'll get much from Dre Washington. I don't think you'll get any from AK Deer, but a little mix here and there. I don't think it's a workload game for Jam, workhorse sort of game.
Yeah, I kind of brought up there, and if Alabama's in this game going to be needing to throw the ball in the way that they have been needing to, is that disaster scenario? Do you guys think?
No, I think
that's how they win.
Yeah, I think it's the only path to winning. Honestly, as shaky as Georgia's defense has been, they were shaky on the outside against Tennessee.
Yep.
And Alabama's got elite talent at receiver, and you've got to give yourself the highest ceiling, and that is Ty putting the ball in the air, throwing the ball to Ryan Williams, Jeremy Bernard, Isaiah Horton, Lazir Brooks. Like, I think they're going to take their shots. I think you might see some misdirection, some end arounds to get those guys the ball in space. I just don't think you're going to dink and dunk your way into beating Georgia, especially on the road. Like, you need to come out there on haymakers, I think, in this game.
Yeah, I think it's the passing game and the receivers that win you the game. So, yeah, that's –
and ultimately it's the offensive line that will win you the game, because that's kind of the wild card in my mind is how those guys hold up, because Kirby and Glenn Schumann are going to come after Ty and make him show that he's the week 2 and 3 quarterback and not the week 1 quarterback.
Yeah, is this kind of – Isaiah Horton kind of said it himself. He has that speed. I think we've talked about it here. He's shown it. Is this the game that you kind of maybe see him taking off? Because, and it sounds cliche, but you got to be thinking that building in Athens, it's number 2 cannot beat us again.
Yeah. And the way they talked about Jeremy Bernard, if you
right. So I just kind of want to talk about the receivers a little bit.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I think Isaiah is going to get one-on-one matchups. I think Brooks is going to get one-on-one matchups, and it's up to those guys to make the defense pay and make them account for him at the very least, because you can't have Ryan Williams and Jeremy Bernard taking away double teams, and then you're left throwing the ball to Josh Cuevas for 4 yards. And all due respect to Josh, it's just not how you're going to win the football game.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. That's what it is. Those are your top 4.
Wild card, though, is throwing the ball to the backside of the backfield. I think that could – you saw that work with that wheel route to Jam in the Georgia game last year. They may try to work some of that because Jam and Kevin are both pretty good. They have good hands.
I'm going to bring up the offensive line again. We
talk about rotating. I'm so sick of it. Of course they're going to rotate.
Yeah. Just I don't know. I'm just bringing it up. That's all. It's one of the more, I don't know, pressing conversations on the roster. That's all.
And you're not the only one bringing it up. It's come up in press conferences over and over. And Kalen Deboer told me last week it will be, they're going to continue doing it.
Yep.
And I like that. My response is, why not?
Yeah.
It's not like either right guard or right tackle, one or two on the depth chart is played out of their mind and you can't take them off the field. Until that happens, like what is the onus on you to just say, you know what, Wilkins shaky, but we're going to let him continue to be shaky at Athens. Yeah. And you know what that is? That's coaching malpractice. So you're damned on the front end or you're damned on the back end. I think your only real option is just to let the guys compete and figure out who can do it.
Mike, anything to add there or ditto?
I mean, I think there's something to be said for consistency and who's out there and the psychology of that and the communication aspect that goes along with that. I mean, players will say, like, it doesn't matter who's next to me. Like,
Caden Crocker didn't say that.
But I think it does matter for some players. And I think it also matters, like, you have a good drive and then you get taken out of the game, or you have a bad drive and you get taken out of the game. And does that affect your confidence? Like, there's, I think, something to be said for just being out there the whole game. So I think if you had 5 guys that you knew were your best 5, then that's what you would do. That's what most teams do. I think right now you don't have that. So it's just a matter of, is the environment in Athens the right place to be experimenting? I don't know.
That's the wild card, especially with Michael Carroll at right tackle, is how much do you trust him to handle the environment?
Because I think obviously the higher upside combination on the right side is Roberts and Carroll based on their physical makeup. But I think the experience factor, I mean, probably less so for Roberts, but the experience and kind of the trust factor, if you will, with Chris Kapilovic and Gino Vandermark and probably to some degree Wilkin Formby is also there.
Yeah.
So what wins out?
Absolutely. Anything else on the offensive side? Is there a particular matchup? Anything that you guys are kind of watching on in particular? Alex and I kind of brought up there. I think it's like they're not gonna let Ryan Williams beat them. They're not gonna let Jeremy Bernard beat them. Whether they do, they still could. They're 2 talented players, but I think it is Isaiah Horn and Latsier Brooks and the running backs are gonna be crucial.
I think one of the more interesting matchups isn't even on the football field. It's Ryan Grubb and Glenn Schumann. And we've seen Grubb throw some wrinkles out. That screen pass to open up the second half against Wisconsin. But you know how coaches operate. They hold stuff back, especially for big games, opening SEC play. You've had a bye week. I'm very curious to see what he cooks up, because we saw last year how Georgia didn't handle New very well. In terms of not understanding sort of what Alabama wanted to do offensively. Second half, they settled in and figured it out. I wouldn't surprise me at all to see Grubb throw some wrinkles at him that they haven't put on tape yet, and how Kirby and Glenn Schumann respond to that. The battle of coaching could be really interesting.
I think I'll take it a step further. It's kind of like a tag team match between Sheridan, Grubb, Deboer, and then Schumann, Kirby, and Will Muschamp's around too as well, so it's kind of a
T-Rob knows this team too.
T-Rob as well, so it's right. Great.
Here's a hypothetical for you. Let's say Ty Simpson struggles early in the game and plays like he did at Florida State, which I don't think pleased Kalen Deboer very much. I think Kalen sent a lot of signals after the game. He wasn't very pleased. Given the magnitude of where this coaching staff is in the eyes of fans or boosters or whoever it is, would they make a quarterback change in the middle of this game if they felt like they weren't getting what they needed to from Ty?
If it's a 2-touchdown game, probably not. If it feels like the game is getting away from you, then yeah, you have to. Because ultimately, like, and they've talked about this with Ty, like, and Mike, we've talked about this too. Like, they've been very complimentary of what he's done the last few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But every single time they've talked about it, it's with the but it's only 2 games. And I think buried within that is, but it's only Louisiana, Monroe, and Wisconsin. I'm more confident in Ty because of the way he's processing, and that's something that can carry over. But I do think that if it feels like it's getting away from them, I don't think they have much of a choice. You have to try to save your season, because if Ty looks like he did against Florida State, it's not just a problem for Georgia, it's the rest of the year, and you have to figure out what you're going to do about that. And I don't think you can let that problem linger. The question is, how much do you believe in Austin?
Right.
Accuracy is a little, and then Keelan, a true freshman in Athens, that's
I think it would be Austin.
Yeah,
but I don't know if it would be a popular decision. Like, I think there's a lot of popular support right now for Ty based on what people have seen the last 2 games, and
there is. But the popular support in this place goes
right.
I was gonna say
hated him.
That's a
we need you to wear a polo shirt. We need you to wear a hoodie.
Yeah,
that's Ty Simpson taking a 3rd down sack in the first minute of the game, and they won. I mean,
they'll say he's trash, and it's they made Ty a bigger problem than he was, I think, in the season opener, and now I think they're making him a bigger hero than he really was, given the level of competition.
The fans are talking about.
I would say the fans elevated Ty Simpson bigger than he was since he stepped on campus.
Yes,
it was always, he's going to win the Heisman. And he very well still could. And all those things are still ahead of him, but it's still one of those things where he's always kind of put on that weird pedestal going in. But and it was a 5-star, but depending on
it comes down to me, like, if you're going to go down swinging as a staff, do you want your own guy to be out there for you?
But this goes back to your point, Mike, and just kind of creating the conversation. Is this isn't a must-win?
Right. That's the other part of it. It's like, how desperate is the situation? Because I think obviously you don't want to lose the game, but it's not catastrophic if you do.
Right.
I think if you lose the game and then you're trailing against Vanderbilt, then there's fecal matter falling from the sky at that point.
We're not at your weather report yet.
Right. We're not even there.
Well, that's why you almost, if you're going to lose, you almost want to go down with Ty and just give him every opportunity to pull himself up. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, because then you get whoever that next quarterback would be, it probably would be Austin, a chance at home against Vanderbilt in a much, more reasonable environment. I could see arguments on both sides of it, honestly.
All right. I think it's something you have to think about as a staff going into this game. Like, if things do not start well, what are we doing?
Yeah. Flipping to the other side, going into last week, I don't know. I feel like me and probably most of the country was like, can Gunnar Stockton throw the ball? He can, but can he make those throws? He did against Tennessee. He won them that game. I don't think if you're a Georgia fan, you want him to. You don't want to be in a spot where he has to make those throws every single game. I think if you're a Georgia fan, I think if you're Georgia, it's back to the defense and to run the ball. So kind of just flipping over to Alabama on defense, Georgia on offense in this matchup. Mike, we'll start with you. Kind of just overview. Where are you kind of? Is it in the second? I mean, obviously it's the sack and the QB pressures, but that secondary will get tested. Where are you kind of at in this matchup?
Yeah, I would feel good about the corners against Georgia's receivers. I did last year for most of the game, aside from the final 5 or 6 minutes. But Georgia's still probably better at receiver than they were last year. That's the sense I get. Again, I was talking to Jordan Hill, and he said Zachariah Branch has made it look so easy. He's been hell on wheels early on, and he's most dangerous with simple throws out to the flats that he's turned into big yards after the catch. So to me, I don't know if it's as much attacking Alabama down the field, but it's getting the ball out in space, whether it's to the receivers or the tight ends or the running backs.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of the X's and O's battle of, I don't know if you want some of these Georgia receivers, pass catchers in general, out there against Nakai Hill-Green, or if he plays Jamarian Latham, or even Quay Rusa, or LT Overton if he's dropping the coverage. Like, I don't think you want those matchups. I'm not even sure if you want them on Deontay Lawson.
They have the linebacker, not to cut you off. They have the linebacker. They have the tight ends, but they haven't used them a lot. But
right.
Like you said, they could. And
it's just
Deontay. Yeah,
there's just feels like if you're Georgia, you're trying to exploit the front seven of Alabama more than you are trying to throw into the secondary. Because I think the secondary is a little bit safer for Alabama. So that would concern me a little bit. Obviously, the run game has to concern you, the run defense, until proven otherwise. That just is what it is, and they're not as stout up front as they have been historically. Again, Keenan's not playing at 100%, I would imagine, and you're going to need a lot out of London Simmons. I think you're going to need something out of Isaiah Fega. You're going to need something out of James Smith, like Justin Jefferson. Like, I don't know. But I think Gunnar Stockton is still not John Elway. Like, I do some things to him that disrupt what Georgia's trying to do offensively and trying to get the pass rush going. Like, I think you can stop him, but can you stop everything from Georgia? Because they are balanced, like between run and pass, between receivers and tight ends. Like, it might be a little bit of a game of whack-a-mole, and that would concern me.
They've got a stable of running backs. Alex, go ahead.
Yeah, it's more the running game that I think should concern Alabama than it is the passing game, because yes, Georgia's receivers are better, but if you're just talking about receivers versus Alabama's secondary, I feel pretty confident in that.
Yeah.
The question is, can that defensive line hold up against the run? Can the linebackers tackle in space? Like, that's been shaky. I mean, they're probably like in the 30s, if not real close to 30 in terms of missed tackles through 3 games. It's not good enough. And Georgia's going to stress that with running backs, not just carrying the football, but getting them out in space and daring Justin Jefferson and Deontay Lawson to tackle in space. And it's those extra yards that will kill you. And then on top of all of that is, what does Gunnar Stockton do to you? So it is a game of whack-a-mole, because you can try to pressure Gunnar, but is getting Gunnar out of the pocket really your best path to winning? I don't know. There's an element like, do you just spy the guy and tell him you're going to have to beat us with your arm? You're going to have to prove that you can do that. Again, he did it against Tennessee. This is a game where I think Kane Womack has his distractors. I think this is a game where he can either add to their evidence that he's not what they need him to be, or he can kind of show up and say, hey, this is what this defense is capable of doing. But the key is, I think, complementary football and Alabama offensively being able to move the ball. Because if you just let Georgia grind you into dust, it's going to happen. Alabama, I don't think, has the bodies to do that. You need to force them into situations where they're a little bit predictable.
Right. I think this is a huge game for Kane after it happened against Florida State. This is a big one. And if it does not go well, then I think you're really putting yourself in a precarious spot against Vandy, Sellers in South Carolina, Tennessee. If you take let's just play out the hypothetical. If you're not playing well on defense against Georgia and you lose, if you take a third loss against Vandy or South Carolina or Tennessee, I think the place where Kalen DeBoer would have to look to make a change is defensive coordinator. He's not going to fire Ryan Grubb. So you have a guy on staff in Chuck Morrell who is Kalen's guy. Kane is not quite Kalen's guy in the sense that they don't have that deep of a history. So if you're Kane, this is a huge moment for you at Alabama. This game and then kind of the next few games after against some offenses that did some things against you last year. In particular, Vandy and Tennessee beat you. So we'll see what happens. I don't know. It's
I Yeah, I know it's not the sexiest subject and people don't like talking about it, but special teams, I think, is going to be enormous in this game.
Yeah.
In field position, Georgia has really good special teams. Alabama has a giant question mark on special teams. So field position and how that impacts Alabama's offense and Alabama's defense, I think, is going to be one of the keys to this game. And I wonder how much that influences how aggressive Alabama wants to be offensively in those fourth down situations where I think their DNA is to go for it in a lot of those sort of gray areas. They may not feel quite as safe doing that if they know, on the road how important that is in a tight game. That's just one thing to me that I think it bears watching. We talked about it a lot leading into the season.
Mm-hmm.
We have not talked about it a lot the last 4 weeks.
Yeah, and to your point, Alex, you said it a bunch. Milroe did take a lot of those opportunities away from you last year just with his red zone prowess and those fourth downs. But where do you think Alabama ranks in total field goal attempts over the last 2 years? I mean, like last?
Help me with a good time.
Can you count on two hands how many field goals?
How many? Yeah, probably, but not much more. I mean,
right.
That's just in the hundreds.
I just wanted to it's just crazy.
I'm sure Mike is pulling it up right now.
Yeah. While Mike's pulling that up, and Alex, something else he brought up about Gunner. And I mean, I looked it up here. He's got 28 rushes for 24 yards. He can run the ball. He's not afraid to run the ball. So that's a big aspect too of it. And is that where you brought up the spy? Is that a Deontay Lawson sucking at? But then you have those tight ends. So again, it's kind of that chess match, like you said.
It's really tough. The question I have with Gunner, and I'll be honest, I haven't watched enough to really know it.
Yeah.
Does he have the quick twitch kind of thing that has killed Alabama's linebackers in terms of at the quarterback? Or is he just a guy when he can get to the edge, he can pick up extra yards? What I've seen leans more toward the latter and gives me a little bit of hope for Alabama. But yeah, I think they're going to have to account for that because I think, again, Georgia's going to say, they're going to come out with a list of things and say, okay, can you stop this? Okay, maybe you can. We'll go to this. And they've got a bunch of things. They may not be tremendously explosive, but they are a balanced football team on both sides of the ball, but especially on offense because they do have good enough receivers. They do have good enough tight ends. They do have good enough running back, and they got a quarterback who can run and pass the football. Well, you got to defend everything.
They do have great everything. I was just looking over at the team talent compile. I mean, they're number one in the country. Alabama's number two. They've switched off 1 and 2 over the last 6 years. I mean, this is a game that's played on Sundays, but it's on Saturdays. It's you can go up and down the roster on both of them. Mike?
I'll give you the answer to your question. Among teams that have been in FBS the last 2 years, which excludes Delaware, Alabama has the 4th fewest field goal attempts with 14. They're tied with FIU and Old Dominion. The only 3 teams with fewer field goal attempts are Bill O'Brien's Boston College Eagles, Kent State, which is awful, and they probably haven't moved down the field enough to attempt field goals, and then Navy also has fewer field goals. So 14 field goal attempts in the last season plus for Alabama. The other thing I just wanted to say real quick, it's not a defense versus offense, it's actually offense versus defense, was Jalen Milroe, don't forget, kind of killed Georgia the last couple years. SEC championship game and obviously the game last year. If you're Georgia, are you just going to let Ty, if he wants to run, just let him run? I don't think that's something you're worried about if you're Georgia. I think you just have to seed that and understand that you probably have some pretty good athletes that can stop him. I think Florida State did that. I think you don't have to worry about it like you did with Jalen Milroe, which is probably an advantage for Georgia.
Because Jalen, if it was a foot race, he was winning. Ty sometimes runs like he's in a foot race and he thinks he's going to win, and he's not. Right. He's quick, but he's not fast. Like there's a distinction there, and Georgia will make up that difference. So I think his legs can be valuable in this game, but they're not going to be anywhere near as valuable as Jalen Milroe's were.
Right. Yeah. I don't want to take Mike's job. I know you do the breaking news here, but Sister Jean retires at 106.
I thought that was going somewhere else.
You get that notification that Sister Jean blanks at 106. You would think it,
retired. I thought retired from living. She just.
I mean, I didn't click fully, but yeah. another big thing that we've been talking about. We've been talking about on here. Mike and Alex have had a couple pieces on our site. We joked before we hit recording. We don't feel like it's getting talked about enough, and it should. Kalen Deboer is coaching differently. He's got his black hoodie on. He's Instagram DMing Jeremy Bernard. I know Mike had a quick story on there. Go read it if you'd like. It's a quick read, good, feel good. Alex, you sat down with him. You've talked with people around since that Florida State loss. You've come on here also. You said Kalen Deboer has that fire. He just doesn't show it maybe in public or hasn't. Now that's kind of coming out. We see on the sidelines. We talked about it after the Wisconsin game, ULM game. You had a great piece. Just let's talk about it. It should be brought up. Just the disrespect was loud. The praise should be also equally as,
Look, there's no secret what Kalen wants to be. He wants to be. He would chafe at the word CEO coach, but he wants to oversee it. He wants to be the calm, steady force on that sideline because football is an emotional game. And a lot of the times you need to bring people down. But he found out in that Florida State game that this is not that team. He's the way he put it to me was he saw the gaps, and he was talking about the emotional gaps more than anything. That when you looked at that sideline, and we talked about it coming out of that game, everyone was looking for somebody else to lead instead of just doing it. And it's weird for a team that's as experienced as Alabama is on paper. They don't have a lot of really emotional leaders. And Tim Keenan wasn't there, too. He's one of the few guys who is. So Kalen just said, you know what? If that's what I need to be, normally I keep that in my back pocket. Normally I'm like that in practice, but I don't really show up. But this is what this team responds to. Then so be it. And he said, look, some guys need to be brought down, but some guys need a kick in the butt. And that's what he's been doing. And he said, the other part that I thought was interesting was talking about all the noise around the program and just saying that I'm going to fight for my guys. And he kind of alluded to some things some criticism. He said there's fair criticism and then there's unfair criticism. And he's sort of taken that personally. And that's why I think he's sort of set that tone that, hey, it's us against the world. You know what? Screw everybody else.
Yeah.
And we're going to do our thing and we're going to be loud and we're going to be emotional. And we're going to do all those things. And I think in some ways, it's just responding to what this team needs because A, they don't have those type of leaders, and B, I think there's a hangover from the Nick Saban era where they're used to a certain style of coaching. And Kalen isn't that guy. But again, if that's who he needs to be, then so be it. And, you hear players talk about it, maybe Mike can talk about it a little bit more. They're clearly responding to it and I think they're surprised by it too. That, oh man, this guy who's been kind of like a fatherly figure can be the father who, tells you to go get a switch because it's time to be held accountable.
And to your point, yeah, these guys that go and play for Nick Saban are there before. They want to be coached like that. A lot of them are Southeast kids. They want to be coached. They want to be coached hard like that. They want to be responded well. But go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on definition of fatherly figure because I feel like, kind of depends on each person's personal experience. Yeah, but for Nick Saban, like his fatherly figure, I think would be more like his coaching style, not like Kalen's coaching style. Some could argue Kalen's coaching style is more of a brotherly or friendly figure, if that makes sense. And it did surprise Jeremy. That's what he said. And Jeremy's been with Kalen for 3 years now, that he's kind of changed. And he has adapted to SEC players is kind of the way that Jeremy put it the other day. So to me, are those two things compatible? What you're just saying, that you're tougher on players, but you're also taking things personally that are being attacked when they're being attacked and you're defending them? Because I feel like you're still trying to strike a balance there.
Yeah, it is. But I think it's also just accountability. It's saying, if we're going to say the outside noise is bullshit, when you're doing something on the field that's bullshit, it also needs to be called out too. Mm-hmm. I think it's like, look, everybody's accountable in this. And, if it's going to be us against the world, and there's that, what did he use the word, fighters mentality? That does bleed into how you coach too. So yes, there's a little bit of at odds, but at the same time, I can sort of see them fitting together.
Because Saban kind of did the same thing, and maybe he got criticized towards the end of his career that he was getting soft, but he had the whole radio show rant that was defending his players and saying, these guys go to study hall and they work so hard, and nobody hurts more after a loss than they do, and fans are spoiled, and you can't see in front of your face. All this stuff that he said during the radio, it was defending players, but he's also known as a guy who's going to rip you to shreds if something goes wrong. So I guess there was some level of contradiction there as well. It's just,
but there isn't. I'll tell you why there isn't, because Nick would rip into a player, but you know who he'd also rip into? The coach who's making $1.5 million a year. He would kill coaches.
Right.
And you know what Kalen Deboer did on that botched field goal? Jay Nunez was in the vicinity, and he got near full too. So I think players are okay with it if they see that everyone is held to that same standard. It's when you wrap your arms around one guy and you kick the other guy in the butt for the same thing. That's when it becomes a problem. It's a fine line, don't get me wrong, but especially in today's sort of sensitivity.
And I'd say there was mixed reaction to what Jeremy said too, because I think there are some people who are like, well, why didn't he do this earlier? Like, why did it take this long? Again, I think what you said is true. Like, he has a certain vision for how things should be. And I think there was probably a lot of optimism this offseason that he could implement that vision. We've talked about it going back to the Dave Ballou, if you don't want to be here, leave thing in January. Like, they were going to have a harder edge. They were going to be tougher, et cetera. A higher level of accountability was something that was talked about. So was this already in the works all off season?
There's a human factor to this thing. I know it's college football, but there's a human factor. I mean, go pick up one of these Alabama fans in the middle of the state and move them to Washington and tell them just to adapt and tweet at them and put a video. I mean, it's tough.
Well, and it's not just that. I think, look, you don't want coaches to be surprised. You want them to have a complete pulse of your football team. I think they were surprised by what happened at Florida State. I think they didn't expect it. And you know what? I take Ballou at his word when he talked about the way they challenged players, but the way players challenged other players throughout the offseason. And he said it's not just doing that, it's the way they responded to it. And it was great. It was pointing in the right direction. But I think it's a Mike Tyson quote. I can't believe Mike Tyson's getting two different things. Everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the mouth. All those things that players were saying and doing evaporated the minute they got punched in the mouth. And I think while you'd love for Kalen and this coaching staff to have seen that coming a mile away, there is a world in which you can be surprised and say, holy crap, these guys are not what I thought they were. And I think that's what happened is they said, man, all the things we saw, it wasn't real. When push came to shove, it wasn't real. So be it. I'm going to have to step into this void, and I'm going to have to be the guy who does those things. Ideally, you don't want that to be the case. But, I think surprise is the word I go back to. I think they were unaware of what was going to happen at Florida State. Not on the field. It was just the emotional aspect of it and the way Alabama's sideline folded in that moment.
And I think you can sense a different tone, a different energy, not just from Kalen, but from the coordinators as well that we've talked to. It's just a little bit less rah-rah, if that makes any sense. I don't know if it was rah-rah before. It's come down a notch.
It was optimistic before.
Right. And it's a little bit more screws being tightened now. You can just feel it. You can sense it. So
it's like they're on punish. It's like they're a kid and they got a lot of leash and then they screwed up. And now, you know what? Where are you going? You're checking in. You're not where you're supposed to be, man. Like, come on.
Right.
You told me who you were, and now I'm responding to it. Yeah. And you may not love it. I think the players actually do like it. But in this analogy, that's sort of what goes through my head.
Yeah, and kind of put a wrap on the kind of, I guess, new way Kalen Deboer is going at it. I had a couple commits and recruits tell me that were in town that they kind of noticed a little bit different Kalen as well, just kind of way he carried himself. You could tell he was a little angry, to your point, like kind of defending his players and some of the outside noise, which is a good thing. It's nice to hear, I think, if you're commits and they're excited about that. Mike, weather minute for Alabama in Georgia in Athens, Saturday, September 27th, 6:30 p.m. Central Time. Weather minute, Mike Rodak.
Yeah, I mean, there seems to be a chance of some rain. It's fluctuated. It looks drier today than it looked yesterday.
What models are we looking at, Mike?
Looking at this is the
you open that with it seems to be a chance of rain, and you're supposed to be our weather guy.
Yeah.
So I wish I could show you on this podcast. This is GraphCast GFS, which uses Google AI, but at the very top of the model it says "not for decision making." So don't trust us, is what it says.
Yeah.
The SEC does not use that model.
Right. It depends on what you're looking at. It depends on when you're looking at these models, but it seems like there's some chance of rain during the day against Georgia. There's probably less of a chance of rain during the game, but it doesn't seem like it's going to be completely bone dry like it's been around here for the last few weeks. So I don't think it's going to affect the game, but it may affect some pregame festivities that may be happening in Athens.
Yeah, I think they'll find a way. I think
it's only right that it'll be pouring rain for Alabama in Athens.
I never said that.
No, I did. Final thoughts.
In 15.
Final thoughts on the Georgia-Alabama matchup. Just real quick, Alex or Mike, anything? Just overview, something that you're maybe going to be thinking about when you put your head on the pillow tonight.
Like bizarre dreams about Alabama football.
I woke up around
24/7,
2:30 this morning, having a dream that my computer got hacked, and I couldn't go back to sleep for a while.
So nothing on the Georgia-Alabama.
No, it was a weird, I don't want to call it a nightmare, but it was like I couldn't get into.
That's a nightmare. That is a nightmare. Anything.
I'll restate it. I don't think this is the end all be all. Mm-hmm. I think you can lose to Georgia and things will still be okay in the big picture. But what you can't do is lose to Georgia and Vandy. Mm-hmm. That can't happen because bad things will happen if that happens.
My final thought, I guess, is which tie is going to show up. And it's interesting you talk to him, and I hate dissecting everyone's words when they're maybe young and inexperienced talking to the media. But there's this part of Ty that's like, this is any other game. Don't worry about it. But then there's him saying that to players, you're going to tell your kids about this game.
Oh.
Don't make too much of it, but it's a big deal. And will he get bug-eyed because of what's at stake, because it is his first SEC game, because it's Georgia, because it's Kirby Smart, all these things. If he is, I think that's a problem. I think he just needs to play fast and loose. And can he get there? Can this coaching staff get there to where he's playing his best? Because if he's thinking too much about everything else going on, he's not thinking about what's right in front of him. So to me, that's a little bit of a wild card in this game.
Yeah.
Don't run backwards against Georgia's defense.
No.
If I have one last thing to say before kickoff, Ty, do not run backwards.
And he hasn't had a cause to. Has he had one throwaway yet this season?
It depends on what you call a throwaway. I think that last drive against Florida State, he had one that was off target.
Just literally chucking it to the sideline to live to play another down. I'd like to see him do that just once just to know that, hey, I can give up on a play. It's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, a loaded preview as always for, again, Alabama at Georgia Saturday night in Sanford Stadium. Under the lights, between the hedges, not game day. I was about to say game day, not game day. People went crazy about that, which, whatever. I mean, whatever to me. Mike, Alex, thank you for joining. This will be available anywhere you get your podcast soon after this. Myself, Mike, and Alex will be in Athens on Saturday, providing full coverage. So excited to do that. Stay locked in. Thank you, guys.